The Pistons will look to do something for the first time in almost 18 years against the Pacers on Monday night. We'll preview that game and a whole lot more in just a moment. Welcome back to the Pistons Jack YouTube channel. On today's episode, we will preview the Pistons-Pacers matchup. We'll also show some love to a Piston who has really stepped it up the last 3 games, and we'll close it out with an interesting stat I came across on Twitter earlier today and what this could mean for the Pistons' hot start. But let's get straight into this game. The Pistons are welcoming in the Indiana Pacers for the first time this season. They'll play their division rival. The Pacers are coming in at 1-12 on the season. They have the 30th ranked offense, the 26th ranked defense, and the 29th net rating, getting outscored by nearly 15 points a game. But this is a game I think could be a trap game for Detroit. I am confident they'll win, but I am not. But I think this will be a close game. I think the Pacers, they are without a lot of key players who I'll get to in just a moment. But with what they showed last season and some of the players they still have healthy and available, and who the Pistons I think will probably still be without, whilst the injury news is positive, I think this will be a close game for a lot of it. And I expect the Pistons to run away with it towards the end. But I think this is going to be a tough contest. I think the Pacers-Pistons, even with depleted lineups like both will have, I think there is a little bit of rivalry there. Even if neither team will want to admit it, I really do think something was really being built last year. And we saw the stuff last year between Stu and Siakam after the buzzer. Cade had some post-game comments after a game in Indiana. There's always the Mathurin thing with Detroit, and he could be back for one of his second game of the season. So I think the Pacers will get up for this game. They've still got an exceptional coach. And like I said, the numbers for them are not great. They're pretty horrible, to be honest. But even without the players they're without, I think this will be a pretty tough game, and both teams are going to go at it hard. But the Pacers will be without Johnny Furphy, Tyrese Halliburton, Quentin Jackson, Cam Jones, starting small forward Aaron Naismith. They're one of their first players off the bench in Obi Toppin. And Ben Mathurin, like I said, is questionable, who could be back for his second game of the season. He obviously always really gets up for these games against Detroit. Now, for the Pistons, Jalen Duren is upgraded to probable, which is awesome. I do feel confident he will play. Normally this far out, if they're probable, I think he will be right to go. Cade and Nassar are questionable. I've got a sneaky feeling they won't play because the Pistons play a back-to-back in Atlanta the following night, and the Hawks are a much tougher team right now than the Pacers. They're 8-5. They're 1-4 in a row. I think they'll want to give them just one more night of rest to be perfect to go against a better team the following night. And just with how good Detroit has looked without pretty much their whole starting lineup recently, I could see the coaches just saying, look, it's early in the year. Let's get them a little bit of rest while we can for the better opponent the night before. So, like I said, the Pistons right now have the 15th best offense, 3rd best defense, and the 5th best net rating in the NBA. They're outscoring opponents by 6 points per 100 possessions. Now, like I said, the Pacers are getting outscored by nearly 15 points. But I think I had a look at some numbers. The Pistons are always going to be at the top for rebounding. They're currently 3rd. I was surprised the Pacers are 6th. So that's something to keep an eye on because I feel like throughout this season, the Pistons have been a great rebounding team, but I feel like there's some second chance points stuff, some offensive rebounds to the other team that have really hurt the Pistons in spots. And I don't know if that's just me as a fan. They really stick out when the other team scores off a second chance point because it feels like this big missed opportunity. But it is something to keep an eye on because the Pacers, they are obviously without Miles Turner these days, who left the team. But you don't want Detroit to get beaten on the boards because this Pacers team, I expect them to be physical, whether it's picking up full court with TJ McConnell and Andrew Nemhard, or just trying to, get into the Pistons' head a little bit because they're going to be a talent deficit. I think that's something to keep an eye on. 3-point percentage, the Pacers actually 30th in the league, which shocked me. They are shooting the ball the worst in the NBA. And then points in the paint, the Pistons are 2nd, and the Pacers are 23rd. So the Pistons, as long as they can play their normal game, dominate on the inside, make some shots on the outside for the threes they take, I think they should win this. Like I said, they should run away with this by double digits in the end. For the Pacers, Siakam has still been playing really well. He's pretty much putting up 25 points, 7 rebounds, 5 assists. And I mentioned Nemhard before. He just recently came back. So they could have Mathurin, Nemhard, and Siakam all good to go. Obviously, still missing a significant portion of their roster, but so will Detroit. So I think this is going to be a tough game. I do. And like I said, I think it could be a trap game. I think Detroit win, but I do expect a close game. I would love to hear your thoughts about it in the comments below. Am I overreacting a bit? Is that my PTSD kicking in and just not feeling too confident about this type of game from the jump? I think the Pistons will win it, but just from the jump, I wouldn't be surprised if the Pacers get, like an 8 to 10 point lead somewhere in that first half and we're all panicking, but we'll see what happens. Love to hear your thoughts below. The second thing I wanted to touch on was Caris LeVert. This guy in the last 3 games has been awesome. The last 3 games he's played, he didn't play the Wizards game, but he played the 2 Philly games and the Bulls game. In those games, he's putting up 15 points, 5 assists, block and a half. He's doing it on like 70% shooting from the field, 60 something from 3. He's just been such a steady presence, and he's doing it in only like 20 to 23 minutes a game. So this type of load and the minutes he's been given and the rotation patterns is really sustainable for him for the rest of the year. This is the version of Caris I think Trajan Langdon and JB Bickerstaff envisioned when they signed him for the mid-level. And I must admit, I've been harsh on Caris a little bit, or he's been someone who probably one of the only players I've spoken about on here that's been a little bit underwhelming, but I probably didn't give him the benefit of the doubt enough. Being, early 30s and having some sort of soft tissue injuries like the hamstring soreness and some other things, I probably didn't give him enough time to ramp up. But he seems like the last 3 games, it's like a switch has flipped. He's shooting the 3 exceptional, and he's making huge shots, and his decision making feels much better. Defensively, he seems more nimble. He's had some nice blocks on the ball. I don't know. Is it just me, or does it feel like just these last 3 games, it's like just been a snap of the fingers and it's a new version of him? I'm loving it. And I think even if Cade and Asar aren't back tomorrow, I think I trust him and Dennis, them handling the ball. I think is something the Pistons can really thrive off right now. And then when Cade and Asar do come back, and Jaden Ivey, this version of Caris can be exceptional playing alongside them. I think this version of Caris is probably better if he can sustain this than the version of Dennis Schroeder we had last year, simply because of his size. If he can keep up this shooting, I think that gives you much more than that version of Dennis Schroeder, as good as Dennis was. Now, obviously, Caris has to keep this up, but this is, I think, the vision certainly Trajan had. And I think I had this vision when they signed Caris. I was just a bit worried early. And I'm sure some other fans were. There's definitely some fans who were just like, "Not relax. I like Caris. We've seen what he can do across his career. He'll be fine." But yeah, he's been absolutely awesome. Making key plays on top of the great efficiency and the box score numbers. Like really coming through in spots for Detroit. I want to say in that last game, he made a huge 3 to put them up by like 6, so like in the final 4 or 5 minutes. He made some big mid-range shots. In the earlier game against Philly, he hit like 4 threes in the first half, and the Pistons were just completely out of rhythm. He was the guy who made huge shots. So really timely shot making, doing it efficiently, and doing it in a role that's sustainable. He's not playing like 35 minutes and putting up these numbers. This is the role he will have for the rest of the year, most likely, give or take a couple of minutes here or there. So shout out to Caris. Where I want to wrap this up and show some love for Caris in the comments for sure. Where I want to wrap this up is a graphic that Anthony from Pistons Talk, shout out to our guy, posted on his Twitter. And here it is. 3 of the last 4 NBA champions started 11-2. The Warriors in 22, Celtics 24, and last year's Thunder. Now, obviously, the Nuggets started 9-4. I'm very well aware that this is like cherry picking a number because last year the Cavs started 15-1 and they didn't even make the conference finals. But the reason I'm bringing this up is it's just like so refreshing. And I don't think many people expected the Pistons to start this good, even with whatever some want to say is an easy schedule. I think it's just incredible, really, to see them in these type of rankings. Like 11-2. We kept talking about it on Pistons Worldwide following the 76ers win on Friday night. Like, this is incredible. 11-2. I haven't experienced a Pistons team like this. I think the best start to the season was the 17-18 season where they were 14-6. They might have been 10-4 in there at one point, but like, this feels so much different. They're doing it with injuries. Like, that team in 18, as soon as Reggie Jackson sprained his ankle, the whole thing fell apart and they trade for Blake, and the rest is history later in that year. But like, this team has so many injuries, like so many, and none of them, thankfully, are like significant that are going to affect them into next year. But they have so many key players out. It's ridiculous. Like, these last 2 wins, I don't even need to talk about them. It's incredible. Like, the culture is there. That's the thing. The culture, the chemistry, the synergy from top down is so apparent. And on top of the talent this team has and the fact their identity now, just this team and the characters on it and the physicality, like I said, I haven't experienced the going to work Pistons. Definitely didn't experience the bad boys, but there's an element of this team where it certainly seems to represent and have a similar feel to what those teams did. Now, this team's got to prove it, that they can do this for a whole season and win a playoff series. It's still very, very early, but all the signs are pointing to them to being great. And like I said earlier when we were previewing the game, 3rd best defense in the NBA, top 5 net rating, top half of the league offense. Those numbers, you're going to win a lot of games. You're going to be a tough out every night, and it'll typically get you to a certain point in the playoffs. Now, how far you go in the playoffs is probably going to be determined by how good your top 2 to 3 players can be. Can they go to another level when the pressure's really ramped up? We'll find out. We got a glimpse of it last year, but that was their first playoff series. I'm not saying Cade's not going to ever step up in the playoffs because he had some struggles, but I think overall the Pistons' young core looked pretty darn good against the Knicks last year, and they've hit the ground running this season. And I'm really excited. They got 2 good matchups this week. They're playing at Atlanta on the second night of a back-to-back. Hawks, like I said, are 8-5, won 4 in a row, are a different team now without Trey. And then the Bucks, Giannis for a decade now has haunted us as Pistons fans, dominating our team. If not a decade, at least since like 2018. He's just been a monster, and the Pistons have had issues with him. He's just a matchup nightmare for everyone, but I feel like we never beat the Bucks. It's very rare, and the Pistons will get a chance to play the Bucks later in the week on the road, so that will be a really fun game to get some of a measuring stick of, where this team is. I think they should win both those games that they're playing, but it'll be really good to see them go against some better opponents this week, some better Eastern Conference opponents who a lot of people had above them in the standings. So that's going to do it for today's show. Thank you so much for watching. We'll be back straight after the Pacers game with a breakdown of that game on the channel. But appreciate you as always. But until then, go Pistons.